Good evening, everyone. Welcome back to Horsepower Obsessed. Today, we're going to talk about the C8 Corvette, its EPA rating that just came out, and a couple other things. So let's get right to it. Alright guys, so just yesterday, Chevrolet officially announced what the EPA fuel rating of the C8 base model Corvette is going to be. And it's fairly impressive. So with the LT2 engine, we obviously get the 495 horsepower, which is about 30 to 35 horsepower more than the LT1 engine that the C7 Stingray had upon its arrival. Now, with that said, the 2014 Stingray with the 7-speed manual transmission had an EPA rating of 16 miles per gallon in the city and 25 miles per gallon on the highway. The C8 with the LT2 engine, obviously, like I said, 30 to 35 horsepower more, and it has a better fuel rating than the previous LT1. It comes in at 15 miles per gallon city and 27 miles per gallon highway. Obviously has slightly less performance in the city driving, but a little bit better on the highway, which equals out to a combined better rating than the previous LT1 in the C7 Corvette. Now, this is obviously impressive for a couple different reasons. A lot of people would look at these numbers and say, wow, it's only 2 miles per gallon better, but that is a pretty extreme difference considering the horsepower difference between the two engines. So far, it seems like Chevy is doing a lot of things right with this car. They're giving us the fuel economy, they're giving us the horsepower. Now we just really need to see how this car is really going to perform. Now, like I said, Chevy did officially announce this right before Daytona started this weekend, and it kind of blew up on the internet because there's a lot to be said about a company that can create an engine with more horsepower and still maintain, or in this case, increase the amount of fuel economy that that engine is able to produce. Not too long ago at the Corvette Museum, we had Taj and Harlan going over some PowerPoint slides, and one of them was actually showing the digital dash display of the C8 Corvette, and on it, a lot of people noted at the time that the fuel economy said 25 miles per gallon. Now, that's obviously the average in this situation, but with what we just saw on the EPA ratings, odds are very good that is actually a real legit number for this car. So we were kind of given this information months ago without anybody really actually knowing. Anyway, guys, I know it's not horribly exciting that the EPA fuel rating of the car is pretty decent. That's not necessarily why most people are buying this car, I get it. But at the same time, it is interesting to see that we can have our cake and eat it too, so to speak. But anyway, moving on to the next bit of information here actually was the Zo6 testing in California. So if you guys remember, I put out a video about that, and of course I'll link it up to the top right of this video if you want to check it out. But basically what it was the Zo6 roaring around the streets of California, and you could hear it. You could hear that flat plane crank engine. So while that's awesome and everything, there was a noticeable lack of turbo sound or supercharger noise. So all of the rumors up until this point suggesting possibly a naturally aspirated Z06 were starting to kind of sound like they may be coming true. That is, until this picture came out. Now, this picture shows what we assume to be the C8 Z06 sitting right beside a Porsche. Or more specifically, a GT2RS. Now, this is interesting on a couple different levels, but Chevy has a past with testing or benchmarking the Corvette specifically against Porsches and Ferraris. So while we see this as nothing unusual, there is a little bit more to it than that. Now, number one, this particular Porsche made it around the Nürburgring in under 7 minutes, and it was significantly less than 7 minutes, meaning that this car really knows how to make it around a track. Now, that's important here because Chevy's obviously benchmarking the C8 Z06 against a car that's already a track monster to hopefully make their Z06 the same kind of track monster. Now, the big thing about the GT2RS here is the amount of horsepower it has. It obviously has a twin turbo setup. Why would Chevy be benchmarking a naturally aspirated Z06 against a twin turbo Porsche? That's what I really get out of this picture, is it doesn't make any sense for Chevy to do that, unless, of course, that C8 Z06 does in fact have some sort of forced induction. If it does, it makes total sense for Chevy to be testing it against that car because they're going to be direct competitors, or at least they want them to be. Now, the big thing with the Porsche, other than the actual horsepower, is the weight. The car actually weighs a hair over 3,200 pounds, while the C8 Corvette currently is a good bit more than that. So unless Chevy also decreased the weight of the Z06 by about 300 pounds, it's still not going to be necessarily a direct competitor. Now, the Porsche obviously does have a dual clutch automatic transmission as well, so they're directly comparable as far as that goes. But I'm still wondering about this turbo thing. Now, as you can see in the photo, there is obviously a GM engineer with a laptop open on top of the roof of the suspected Z06. Again, this really just tells me they are data logging a lot of the information from that car to make sure that it's going to be reliable and fast. But the fact that they're benchmarking it against a GT2RS tells me there is a good chance this Z06 is going to have likely a twin turbo setup on top of its flat plane crank engine. It's definitely interesting because there is no turbo noise or anything to be had in this video. Now, of course, the video is not the greatest quality, so it could possibly be hiding underneath the echo or whatever it might be. Chevy might have found a way to downplay the noise so nobody could tell. Whatever the case may be, the fact that it's benchmarking against the GT2RS tells me it is probably going to have more than the rumored 600 horsepower and likely to not be naturally aspirated after all. I know a lot of you guys will be happy with this, but I was kind of looking forward to the Z06 not having forced induction, and there's been a couple articles out there talking about why it won't have forced induction, but after seeing this picture and reading some of the other rumors surrounding this picture, it sounds like it could possibly. Unless GM found a way to take a flat plane crank engine, naturally aspirated, and still make the same amount of horsepower or have the same kind of performance as the GT2RS, in which case I'm still totally on board. Now, like I've said 100 times, guys, this is all rumors, so you're going to want to take all this stuff with a grain of salt. You definitely don't want to read into this stuff too much, but usually whenever the rumors start spinning with the C8 Corvette, they almost always end up being accurate. So I would be surprised to find that the C8 Z06 doesn't have very similar performance to the GT2RS at the end of the day, and that is fantastic. Whether they achieve it with forced induction or naturally aspirated, it doesn't matter. If they're achieving the end result of performance similar to the GT2RS, that is a huge win for Chevy. Now, lastly, Daytona has started this weekend, and both C8Rs are down there doing their thing, and from what I understand, they are doing very well. So I'm going to include some footage here to finish out this video, let you guys hear and see that C8R on the track, and just listen to that thing freaking purr. Anyway, before I let you go, I hope you enjoyed what you saw here, so give me a big thumbs up. If you have any questions about the content or anything we talked about, please shoot them in the comments section down below or send me an email, horse.power.obsessed@gmail.com, and I'll be happy to answer anything you might have. If you haven't subscribed yet, guys, please do. I have a C8 of my own coming here very soon. You're not going to want to miss any of the content I'm making with that. But until next time, guys, kick back and enjoy the Daytona sounds.